kingdoms, villages, bandits, spells to uncover, weapons to wield, a glorious journey to not only rebuild our reputation as a mighty king, but to also restore our village and its land to its former glory. We'll learn new skills, meet new friends, take in new companions, and most importantly, explore the world of Udros. Hey, how's it going everyone? It's your boy Wags here, and today we're playing the Bloodline. Now believe me when I say I read the comments and I hear you all loud and clear. You want more gameplay stories and more narrations done by yours truly. Not just stories about solving crimes in particular, but also different adventures in games as well. Which is why I thought this would be a great game to start changing things up a bit. If you didn't know, The Bloodline is an open world RPG with over 500 different skills for you to unlock and wield, and a bunch of quests for you to take part in. The game gives you the opportunity to build your character and your kingdom however you see fit, and there are a lot of options. However, the game is still very much in early access, and I did experience quite a few bugs, but honestly nothing that a quick reload wouldn't fix, and I was right back in. Other than that, the game is ridiculously fun to play, the combat feels good, and leveling up your character to pick a new skill can become addicting pretty fast. I really like the vision that the developer has for the game, and they're extremely active in the game's Discord and subreddit, constantly answering players' questions and taking feedback, which I love to see. As of right now, I have high hopes for the game's development, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here. Of course, if you feel like checking it out for yourself, the Steam page will be linked in the description, as well as the Discord for the game. Now get some popcorn or whatever your chosen snack might be, because I have a story to share with you. It was an early dawn in the Harbinger's castle. My armorer approached me from the stairs in order to hand me my outfit and tell me his father was searching for me. Yeah, I guess I was naked, but don't worry about that. I threw on my royal attire and made my way into the courtyard where my right-hand man Jeffrey greeted me. He told me about how crucial I am to the Harbinger bloodline, and it was vital that I go out adventuring to rebuild my reputation. He also told me of an evil presence called the Unforgiven, and how they will one day return to Udros, and when that day comes, the citizens need to know they can trust and heed my warnings. I was then gifted a weapon of my choice, which ended up being a giant two-handed sword that I would end up butchering my enemies with. With that, I also unlocked my first weapon skill, a heavy sweeping attack. I was all geared up and ready to set out for my first trial task, wiping out the goblin camp nearby. But before I could leave the castle, I got distracted by someone else in need of help. Apparently, somehow they managed to lose their hat on top of a 50-foot pillar. I mean, I was baffled. I don't even know how you do something like that, but nonetheless, I was dedicated to retrieving it for him. I had a grapple, but I guess it didn't work on the stone exterior of the castle wall. It worked on the wood, just not on the stone. I knew there had to be some way to scale the wall. And then... What? So it turns out I'm Spider-Man, I guess. Or I just have the grippiest hands and feet you've ever seen. Either way, at the top of the pedestal was the man's hat he so eagerly awaited. Upon return, he insisted that I could keep the hat instead if I wished. And oh yes, I certainly did. If I was going to have anything in this world, I was going to have style. So with my new hat, my newfound sword fighting skills, and my Spider-Man powers, I set off further into the kingdom's village to finally slay those pesky goblins. Rows of destroyed, abandoned buildings awaited me just outside the castle's domain. It would be nice to one day see this place rebuilt. To see the village outside my castle reborn and filled with life would be a pleasant sight, but all in due time. Directly ahead was the goblin camp, which meant it was time. The quick battle ended with me standing over the goblins' vanishing bodies. My job there was done, and it was time for me to head back to the castle. According to Jeffrey, I was ready to go out on my own from here, but my next destination, if any, should be the steppes of Esros, which happens to be a pilgrimage site for the Harbinger bloodline. Whatever you say, Jeff. As one last parting gift, he offered me what I expected to be a mighty steed, a loyal and hardy stallion, a companion that would take me across the world. And instead,
But what the hell, boy?
I got a donkey. A donkey named Ferguson. Before we officially headed out, I spent the time mastering a couple more skills, one being the ability to completely take the form of a rabbit for 60 seconds, and another to attach a lantern to my side. It wasn't much, but it was enough for Ferguson and I to finally begin our adventure. Looking at the overworld map didn't give me much confidence though, because there happened to be a bright red ominous figure stalking me on the trail. Turns out, it was a group of bandits. I fought as hard as I could, using the skills I learned to give me an advantage during the ambush, but despite my best efforts, none of it was enough and my health was in a dangerous state. And then I remembered, I can literally turn into a rabbit. After a successful retreat, Ferguson and I rested up on a hillside where I built us a cozy campfire. It didn't matter that there were 2 chairs right next to me. Everyone knows when you're on an adventure, you sit right down in the dirt and grass, feel the ants crawling all over your legs. That's what a real adventure is. There were so many places of interest all around us, with a couple in between us and our current destination, the steppes of Esros in the Elder Glen Woods. My eye happened to catch a mysterious-looking crypt on the other side of the lake, and thankfully there was enough land in the middle to cross. Or so I thought. All of a sudden, Ferguson couldn't move, and was struggling to escape the water. I didn't know what to do. I threw my grapple at him and I tried to pull, but nothing worked. It was horrible. I mean, it was just like watching Artax die all over again. Except in this scenario, it definitely wasn't as dramatic, and Ferguson was actually fine, don't worry about it. But there was something else waiting for us on the other side. As I stepped further into the crypt, not only did I steal the few golden riches it contained, but on the second floor was a spellbook that gave me the ability to summon my own skeleton. Since I was only a small amount away from acquiring another skill, I spent the next few minutes fishing. The second weapon skill I took was an upward brute force swing. Combined with my other abilities and powers, I would soon be unstoppable. However, before I continued my travels to the steppes of Esros, I had a revenge mission planned out on the bandits I stumbled upon earlier. So instead of heading forward, I turned back and attempted to find the spot where I was previously ambushed. Soon enough, I ran back into the same group. Well, I mean, it was either them or their friends and family. Either way, they were all going to be dead soon. The fight commenced, and I had to use everything I learned so far. Yet, I was still getting absolutely destroyed. And the battles were ending in, let's say, less than adequate results. I fought as hard as I could, testing new combos of moves. I even turned into a rabbit and started running around headbutting all the bandits, but even that was failing to work. Despite everything that happened, I knew I couldn't give up. Finally, after numerous attempts, every bandit and enemy in the field had been... Oh, hang on. Every bandit and enemy in the field had been defeated, and this land was once again a peaceful haven for travelers and warriors like myself. I was finally starting to feel confident in my fighting skills. It was a long road ahead, and since it was nightfall, I decided to stop in the town of Elder Glen first. The woods of Elder Glen was only a short distance, but I thought it better to get some rest first. On the inside of the walls was a sweet village full of townspeople, beggars, and hardy workers that sell muskets for 1,000 gold. I might need to come back later. A barber standing near happened to tell me about the Drunken Bard, a quaint little inn at the top of the hill. Inside was an even more inviting scene, with lovely music being played and people to talk to. And somehow, what started as a simple attempt to buy an ale quickly turned into a quest to retrieve a famous loot from the Elder Glen Woods. Which, I mean, I was heading there anyways, so why not? I spent a little time in the bar before heading upstairs and just casually building a full-size bed to sleep in. In the morning, I did my last bit of venturing around the city to make the most of any opportunities at hand. There was an archery shop. There was the Lion's Made Guild House, which is a large clan of fearsome warriors. And there was a stable master that not only sold horses, but also, that's right, a barrel on wheels. For, as little as 7,500 gold. Honestly, it was just inspiration to keep going out and exploring. Which is why when this woman offered to teach me how to tame some animals, in this case a rabbit, I knew it had to be done. So she gave me some bait, one singular trap, yes that matters, and then sent me on my way. Mind you, it was also in the complete opposite direction of the steps of Esros, where I should actually be heading. When I got to the area, instead of seeing an abundance of cute, cuddly rabbits, there was a goblin flying with a jetpack. And he had a gun too. I ran around dodging all I could, tried to get some jump attacks in, but it was no use. At this point, I figured it was in my best interest to just get back on Ferguson and ride off. But he was still following me. Thankfully, transforming into a rabbit and hightailing it works pretty much every time. Eventually, I was able to find a nice spot by the lake to set the trap up. I placed a little bit of bait inside and then went on my way. I found a beautiful overlook of the area and even chopped down my first tree, but when I came back to the trap, no rabbit. So I read into the quest a little more, and it turns out I need to put the trap down once I already see rabbits nearby. Also, the trap had sadly become one with the ground at this point and couldn't be picked up or moved, and I really wanted to tame my own rabbit. So then began the journey all the way back to Elderglen to buy not just another trap, but also a copper pistol just in case I ran into that goblin again. Which, by the way, cost me 750 gold, so I was pretty much broke now. And that wasn't even the worst part. It took me getting all the way back to Rabbit Land before realizing I didn't even buy any ammo for it. So there went that whole idea. I did happen to find more rabbits, and while the catching process went a lot smoother this time, the taming process afterwards did not. Once again, I failed to tame a rabbit, and at this point I had already dedicated too much time to it, I couldn't just stop. So again, I went back to Elderglen and bought not one, not two, but 3 traps, just in case anything else went wrong from here. And finally, on my 3rd attempt, I tamed a black rabbit. Now I finally had my own little critter that followed me everywhere I went, and he wasn't just loyal, he was also very photogenic. I then remembered I had my rabbit form, and it quickly occurred to me. This rabbit wasn't just my companion. He was my son. About a day later, me, Ferguson, and my new rabbit son rode through the hills of the Elderglen Woods, with the steep stone staircase just peeking over the hill ahead. It was the first time we laid our eyes on it. A wooden sign foretold the path ahead, so onward we continued. A towering mountain of pure stone waiting to be climbed and explored. No knowledge of what lay atop. With 2 new loyal companions by my side and a variety of skills to unleash, we were finally here, ready to take our very first steps up this historic site.
The death knell tolls. Yet it is time.
A voice called out to me, and it was none other than the god Esros themselves. They told me that the only way we were able to speak is due to very important tethers, but due to these certain warp stones, the tethers were beginning to grow weak. Apparently there was a cave underneath us housing one of these warp stones, and I needed to destroy it. So Esros granted me a special prayer, the prayer of forgiveness. But before I went inside, I decided to test it first to make sure it worked. I wasn't exactly sure how that was supposed to destroy a warp stone, but I wasn't gonna judge the everlasting god of wisdom. On the inside of the cave, I picked up a third skill for my sword and quickly found a bystander to test it out on. Face to face with one of the warp stones Esros was talking about, I sat down to perform the ritual he shared with me. The warp stone completely shattered, and my tether with Esros was now stronger than ever, which now gave me the ability to see certain events in the future, far before they happen in case I want to get involved. It was time to return back to Jeffrey after a long and successful trip, one of many more to come. When telling Jeffrey about everything that happened, I ended up having one of my visions right in front of him. A vision of a forest and a graveyard, with something rising from the ground, almost like a dwarven mining rig being controlled by goblins. Jeffrey heeded my vision and told me Wolf Dover Timberland sounded like the obvious place to check, but that would have to be another day. To end the night, I retreated to the top of the castle's tower. I couldn't help but think the journey went quite well as I stared out into the courtyard, the open land, and the mountainscape. It was all mine to do with as I wished, and I was gonna save it. Hey everyone, I just want to say thanks for watching and staying this long if you're still here. The game has legitimately been so fun to play to the point where I went back after recording, made a new save, and started making a completely new character build. And again, I can't stress this enough, the developers for this game are so dedicated to adding new content and keeping this awesome game rolling. Literally in the time I recorded this video and then started editing it, they put out another patch update and another teaser for some really cool holiday themed weapons that are coming soon. So if you have the opportunity, please support them, they have something big here. If you enjoyed the video, please do not hesitate to hit that like button, as well as comment down below and tell me what you thought. This was definitely different than the mysterious Shadows of Doubt videos that most of you are used to seeing, so just let me know how the change feels. And if you want to dedicate yourself to even more than that, you could also hit that subscribe button, since that absolutely means the world to me. And if you really want to, you could even join my Discord where we chill and talk about our favorite games. Once again, it's a pleasure to make content like this for you all. Thank you all for watching. I hope you're all having an amazing day, and I will see you on the next one.